The world is staring down the barrel of climate change. So why are we still drilling for oil? Well, the reason is we're still using a lot of it. We drive around with it, some people generate power with it, we make plastics out of it. Until we get to the point where we don't need it, we still need to drill for it. Plus, you may have noticed that there's a war going on in Ukraine, and that's led to a few disruptions in the energy market. And we don't necessarily want to rely on places like Russia to supply our energy needs. So I went to one of the US's most important oil producing states, Alaska. Alaska had a boom in the 1980s that rivaled the shale boom of today in terms of its importance to the US. So if we're still talking about drilling for oil, even as we're facing climate change, we need to understand why we're getting oil from a place like that. So I went there to take a look at the North Slope, which is the heart of the Alaskan oil industry. Flying to the North Slope is the easy option. It's like a 2-hour commute from Anchorage. You get to fly past Mount Denali. It's actually pretty awesome. Driving there is a different story. There's a road called the Dalton Highway, or the Haul Road, that was built back in the 1970s to help build the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline. It runs from somewhere just north of Fairbanks for about 400 or so miles to Dead Horse, which is about as hospitable as the name implies. Getting there means getting in a car, driving along a road that's mostly gravel and dirt. You stop at what is effectively a glorified truck stop called Coldfoot, and there you can pick up fuel, food, probably a satellite phone if you want to be safe, and then make the last 240-mile stretch up to Dead Horse, through the Brooks Range, and then down onto the North Slope, which frankly, when you see it, really does kind of look like the moon. The trees have ended, it's flat tundra covered in ice and snow. You start to see small industrial outposts dotting the land, built on gravel pads because you're on the tundra and you're above the permafrost, so you can't really just build the way we would build something elsewhere in the United States. So why does anyone drill for oil at what is literally the end of the earth? Well, it starts with the fact that that's where the oil is. There's a lot of it. An estimate made by the US Geological Survey back in 2008 had almost 30 billion barrels of recoverable oil under Alaska and the sea offshore. That is a lot. That's around 6.5 years worth of all current US oil production. But the other big advantage of Alaskan oil from the US perspective is that it's in the US. If we think back to the 1970s, which is when the first Alaskan oil boom got going, the main reason it got going was because the US was panicking. It was in the middle of an oil crisis. We were facing embargoes from Arab countries. Prices were spiking. There was political fallout all over the place. That was what forced Congress to then force through the construction of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, and things got going from there. Today, Alaska produces a lot less oil, but there is still a lot of oil there, and we are in some ways facing a similar situation. We are facing hostile powers which have a large degree of influence over our oil consumption. And even though we have to deal with climate change, we still need to use a lot of oil for the foreseeable future. And with that in mind, it therefore makes sense to develop that oil where we can, when we can, and with the utmost environmental care. Alaska's strategic advantages mean that there is a role for Alaskan oil and gas to play for the foreseeable future in the US, and that's why developing it makes sense.